Stop for a moment, because what you are about to understand will change the way you see betrayal forever. It will change how you process it, how you respond to it, and how you rise from it. Betrayal is one of the deepest wounds a human being can experience. It destroys trust. It shatters expectations. It breaks pieces of you that took years to build. But Machiavelli believed something most people never dare to consider. He believed betrayal is not an accident, not a mistake, not a misunderstanding. Betrayal is information, brutal information, pure information. Information that exposes truth far more accurately than loyalty ever could. According to Machiavelli, betrayal is the moment you see people clearly. Not the version they pretended to be, not the version you hoped they were, but who they really are. Betrayal strips people of their mask, their charm, their intentions, their excuses, their smiles. And what stands behind all that is the truth you were never meant to see. And this is the dark lesson behind every painful betrayal. It reveals everything. Machiavelli understood this because he watched entire kingdoms fall, not because of enemies, but because of the closest allies. He saw rulers trust people who later stabbed them emotionally, politically, or strategically. And every time the ruler felt shocked, hurt, blindsided. But Machiavelli wasn't surprised. He believed betrayal always comes from those you gave the most to, those you trusted blindly, those you never expected to hurt you, those you protected, those you supported, those you loved, because betrayal requires access, it requires proximity, it requires emotional leverage, it requires a mask. And the people who betray you are the ones who spent the most time studying your weaknesses, not because they wanted to hurt you at first, but because they saw something they could exploit later. Machiavelli wrote that betrayal is never sudden. It is slow, hidden, calculated, quiet. The signs were always there, but your loyalty made you blind. Your hope made you naive. Your love made you overlook the truth, because you believed people would treat you the way you treated them. But betrayal is the moment you learn the truth Machiavelli believed guided human behavior. People do not betray you because you are weak. They betray you because you were strong for them in ways they could not reciprocate. They betray you because your loyalty made them comfortable. They betray you because your support made them feel entitled. They betray you because your kindness made them assume you would never leave. And they betray you because your presence highlighted their inadequacy. Machiavelli observed something dark but accurate. When you give someone more than they deserve, they eventually start resenting you. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your consistency makes them ashamed of their inconsistency. Your loyalty makes them aware of their disloyalty. Your stability makes them aware of their chaos. Your strength makes them aware of their weakness. And instead of rising to your level, they destroy what reminds them of their lower one. That destruction becomes betrayal. And that painful moment becomes your clarity, because betrayal is the sharpest form of education, the most honest feedback life can give you, the most undeniable truth about someone's character. But here is where Machiavelli's thinking becomes even darker. He believed betrayal is not the end. It is the beginning of wisdom, the beginning of emotional intelligence, the beginning of strategic thinking, the beginning of self-respect. Because betrayal forces an evolution. After betrayal, you no longer trust words, you trust patterns. You no longer fall for charm, you study intentions. You no longer attach quickly, you evaluate slowly. You no longer explain your worth, you enforce it. You no longer chase people, you watch their actions. Betrayal kills the illusions that kept you naive and births the clarity that makes you powerful. And this is why Machiavelli believed betrayal was sometimes necessary. Not morally, but strategically. Because betrayal forces you to grow in ways loyalty never could. Loyalty comforts you. Betrayal sharpens you. Loyalty makes you soft. Betrayal makes you aware. Loyalty keeps you stable. Betrayal makes you strong. It teaches you the difference between someone who is loyal to you and someone who is loyal to their need for you. It reveals who values you and who only valued what you provided. It exposes who cared about you and who cared about control. And most importantly, it reveals something about yourself. that you ignored signs, that you believed potential instead of reality, that you held on to someone who had already let go internally, that you stayed when you should have stepped back, that you trusted someone who was never trustworthy, and that lesson becomes your power. Because the next version of you will not miss what you once missed. You will not excuse what you once excused. You will not lower what you once lowered. You will not break for what you once broke for. Betrayal becomes the filter that removes everyone who is not meant to stay in the next chapter of your life. And in part 2, you will learn the deeper psychological motives behind betrayal. Why people betray. What drives them? What betrayal reveals about their internal world? And why Machiavelli believed betrayal says more about them than it ever will about you. And now that you understand betrayal as information rather than accident, you must learn the darker truth Machiavelli discovered. The truth that betrayal has almost nothing to do with you and everything to do with the person who commits it. Betrayal is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their weakness, their fear, their insecurity, their hunger for power, their inability to handle loyalty. Machiavelli believed that betrayal is an instinctive reaction of those who feel threatened by the very people who helped them, because betrayal rarely comes from enemies. Enemies attack you openly. Betrayal comes from those who pretend to stand beside you while quietly wishing to stand above you. And the first psychological motive behind betrayal is insecurity. Insecure people betray because your strength humiliates them. Your stability exposes their chaos. Your growth reminds them of their stagnation. Your loyalty magnifies their disloyalty. Instead of improving themselves, they eliminate what makes them feel inferior. Betrayal is their escape from their own inadequacy. Machiavelli wrote that the insecure ally is more dangerous than the declared enemy because their envy grows in silence. The second motive behind betrayal is entitlement. When you give someone too much, they begin to expect it. When you give consistently, they stop appreciating it. When you support endlessly, they start assuming it. And entitlement is the seed from which betrayal grows, because an entitled person believes they deserve more than what you offer. They believe they should be prioritized even when they contribute nothing. They believe they have the right to your effort without giving effort back. When you finally stop giving, they betray you to punish you for taking away what they never earned. Machiavelli believed that generosity without limits creates monsters who bite the hand that feeds them. The third motive behind betrayal is opportunism. Opportunistic people are loyal only as long as loyalty benefits them. Their loyalty is not loyalty, it is convenience. When the situation changes, when someone offers them more, when they see a chance to get ahead, they switch sides, they flip narratives, they abandon you. Opportunists do not love you, they love advantages. Machiavelli warned rulers that opportunistic allies were the most dangerous because they betray not out of emotion but out of strategy. And betrayal driven by strategy is colder than betrayal driven by anger. The fourth motive behind betrayal is fear. Fear of losing control, fear of being exposed, fear of being overshadowed, fear of being abandoned first. Fearful people betray you before you can betray them, even when you never intended to. They betray to protect themselves, to get ahead of a pain they imagined. Machiavelli believed that fear makes humans irrational, and irrational fear fuels irrational betrayal. The fifth motive behind betrayal is jealousy. Not jealousy of what you have, but jealousy of who you are, jealousy of your mind, jealousy of your calmness, jealousy of your confidence, jealousy of how others admire you, jealousy of your influence, jealousy of your potential. People rarely betray you because you did something wrong. They betray you because you did something right. Something they couldn't do, something they couldn't match, something that made them feel smaller beside you. Jealousy quietly corrodes loyalty until betrayal becomes their only way to feel powerful again. Machiavelli saw jealousy break alliances more than war ever did. The sixth motive behind betrayal is guilt. When someone treats you poorly, your goodness becomes a burden to them. Your kindness becomes a mirror reflecting their cruelty, and guilt pushes them farther away from you. They betray you not because you failed them, but because you didn't fail them, because you were loyal, you were genuine, you stood by them when they wouldn't have done the same, and this exposes them. Betrayal becomes their way of escaping the guilt they cannot handle. Machiavelli believed that people betray to silence the voice of conscience within themselves. The seventh motive behind betrayal is selfishness. Betrayers always choose themselves above everyone, even above truth, even above loyalty, even above morality. They betray for gain, for pleasure, for attention, for validation, or simply because it benefits them in the moment. And they never think of the damage it causes. Machiavelli believed selfishness was the default state of most humans unless trained otherwise, and betrayal is the natural result of that selfishness. The eighth motive behind betrayal is emotional immaturity. Immature people cannot handle conflict. They cannot communicate honestly. They cannot process their feelings. So instead of facing issues, they run, they cheat, they lie, they deceive, they betray, because betrayal is easier than communication. Machiavelli knew that people avoid discomfort even if it means destroying relationships in the process. The ninth motive behind betrayal is convenience. Betrayers choose the easiest path, and hurting you is easier than fixing themselves. Hurting you is easier than telling the truth. Hurting you is easier than being loyal. Hurting you is easier than confronting their own flaws. Machiavelli understood that betrayal is often not driven by complexity but by simplicity. It is the simplest solution for weak people. The 10th motive behind betrayal is resentment. Not resentment of what you did, but resentment of what you made them feel. They resent the fact that you were there for them. They resent the fact that they needed you. They resent the fact that you saw their vulnerabilities. They resent the fact that you forgave them more times than they deserved. And forgiveness is dangerous in the hands of the wrong person, because instead of appreciating it, they use it against you. In Machiavelli's view, resentment is betrayal waiting for an opportunity. And the 11th motive behind betrayal is the ego. People betray because the ego wants to feel in control, wants to feel superior, wants to feel powerful, and hurting someone who once cared for them gives them a temporary high. But as Machiavelli taught, the ego-driven betrayal always ends in self-destruction. Because people who betray for ego always lose more than they gain. And now that you understand the psychological motives behind betrayal, you are ready for the next stage. Because the next part reveals the transformation that betrayal forces inside you, the evolution it triggers, the strength it builds, the clarity it grants. And why Machiavelli believed betrayal, although painful, is often the turning point that creates the strongest version of you. And now that you understand the motives behind betrayal, you must understand what betrayal does to you. Because betrayal is not just an emotional wound. It is a psychological breaking point, a moment that fractures your identity but also exposes the parts of you that were never truly yours. Machiavelli believed that betrayal destroys the old version of you so the stronger version can finally emerge. Betrayal is the death of your illusions, the death of naive loyalty, the death of blind trust, the death of unrealistic expectations. Betrayal forces you to confront truths you avoided, patterns you ignored, behaviors you tolerated, people you incorrectly elevated. And most importantly, betrayal forces you to confront yourself, because betrayal does not just reveal who they are. It reveals who you were before you learned better. Betrayal reveals the part of you that wanted to see only potential, the part that gave too many chances, the part that believed words instead of patterns, the part that held on instead of letting go, the part that tolerated disrespect disguised as love, the part that valued others more than yourself. Machiavelli believed that betrayal is the sharpest teacher because it does not allow you to go back to who you were. It forces evolution. The first transformation betrayal creates is emotional detachment. Not coldness, not numbness, but precision. You stop giving your heart to people who haven't earned it. You stop expressing vulnerability to those who cannot protect it. You stop investing energy into one-sided connections. You stop confusing loyalty with self-sacrifice. Betrayal turns your emotional giving from careless to calculated, from limitless to selective, and this selectiveness makes you stronger, not colder. Machiavelli wrote that the strongest rulers were the ones who gave their trust slowly and with intention. The second transformation betrayal creates is boundary reinforcement. Before betrayal, you had boundaries, but they were soft, negotiable, flexible. You bent them for people who would never bend anything for you. You compromised your own needs to accommodate theirs, but after betrayal, your boundaries become sharp, clean, unbreakable. Because betrayal teaches you that people will always cross the lines you fail to defend. Machiavelli believed boundaries must be enforced through action, not explanation. And betrayal gives you the courage to enforce what you once only spoke about. The third transformation betrayal creates is emotional clarity. Before betrayal, you saw people through hope, through fantasy, through idealism. You created stories in your mind about who they could be, but betrayal cuts through the story. It forces you to see who people truly are, not who you wanted them to become. And this clarity becomes one of your greatest weapons. Machiavelli believed that clarity makes you untouchable because you are no longer deceived by charm, manipulation, or emotional masks. The fourth transformation betrayal creates is self-respect. You may not notice it at first because betrayal shatters your confidence temporarily. But once you rise from the pain, something changes. You start valuing yourself more. You start choosing yourself more. You start listening to your instincts. You start saying no more often. You stop explaining your worth. You stop fighting for people who won't fight for you. Betrayal forces you to protect yourself the way you once protected others. And Machiavelli believed that self-respect was the foundation of all power. The fifth transformation betrayal creates is emotional resilience. Betrayal is emotional fire, and fire either burns you or reforges you. If you rise stronger than before. Betrayal builds a tolerance for disappointment, a tolerance for uncertainty, a tolerance for loss, a tolerance for emotional discomfort. You stop collapsing when people leave. You stop breaking when things end. You stop drowning in sadness. You develop the emotional muscles Machiavelli admired, muscles that allow you to remain calm while others panic, because you have already survived something that nearly destroyed you. The sixth transformation betrayal creates is strategic thinking. Before betrayal, you trusted too easily. You believed too quickly. You attached too fast. But after betrayal, your mind becomes sharper, more analytical, more perceptive. You notice red flags sooner. You read tone changes faster. You sense hidden motives intuitively. You detect manipulation instantly. Betrayal teaches your mind to think 2 steps ahead. Machiavelli believed that the person who sees more than they say is the one who survives every political and personal battlefield. The seventh transformation betrayal creates is emotional independence. When someone you trusted breaks you, you learn the most painful yet powerful truth. No one is responsible for your emotional stability except you. And that realization is liberating. You stop looking for others to heal you. You stop relying on others to validate you. You stop expecting others to save you. You become your own emotional anchor, your own stability, your own support system. Machiavelli believed that emotional independence made a person nearly impossible to defeat, because defeat only works when someone depends on the opponent emotionally. The eighth transformation betrayal creates is selective loyalty. Before betrayal, you were loyal to people because you cared. But now you become loyal to people because they deserve it. You stop giving loyalty as a gift. You start giving it as a reward, and rewards must be earned. Machiavelli believed loyalty was the most valuable currency, but only when given to the right people. The ninth transformation betrayal creates is inner strength, not loud strength, not aggressive strength, but silent, unshakable strength. The kind people feel when you walk into a room. The kind that makes people think twice before disrespecting you. The kind that comes from surviving emotional storms and still standing. Betrayal builds an internal armor you never had before. Armor made from clarity, boundaries, self-respect, patience, and wisdom. Machiavelli admired those who developed internal strength through suffering rather than comfort. The 10th transformation betrayal creates is a new version of you, one that does not chase, one that does not beg, one that does not break for people who break you, one that does not fear losing people, one that does not tolerate disrespect, one that no longer lives through illusions, one that no longer ignores red flags, one that no longer sacrifices self-respect for connection. Betrayal destroys the old version of you so the new one can finally rise. And this new version is the one Machiavelli believed was most powerful, not because they never trusted again, but because they trust differently, selectively, strategically, carefully. And now that you understand how betrayal transforms you, the next part will reveal something even deeper. The Machiavellian truth about how betrayal secretly benefits you, psychologically, emotionally, strategically, and socially, and why those who betray you unknowingly contribute to your rise. And now that you understand how betrayal transforms you from the inside, you must learn the darker but empowering truth Machiavelli understood better than anyone. Betrayal, while painful, is not just a wound. It is a gift, a harsh gift, a violent gift, a gift wrapped in heartbreak, but a gift nevertheless. Because betrayal does something loyalty never can. It elevates you. It advances you. It protects you. It reroutes you. It clears your path. It exposes what was blocking you. And it removes people who were quietly sabotaging you long before you realized it. Machiavelli believed that betrayal is often the turning point in a person's rise, because betrayal breaks the attachments that were secretly holding you back. Attachments to people who stalled your progress. Attachments to relationships that drained your energy. Attachments to habits that kept you small. Attachments to illusions that prevented growth. Attachments to versions of yourself you should have outgrown years ago. Betrayal severs these attachments violently but effectively. And in that severing, you are pushed into a higher path you would have never chosen voluntarily. The first way betrayal benefits you is through forced clarity. When someone betrays you, the truth becomes undeniable. You can no longer ignore their patterns. You can no longer make excuses for them. You can no longer justify their behavior. You can no longer cling to the fantasy you built around them. Betrayal removes the fog. It brings brutal clarity, and clarity is freedom. Machiavelli believed that clarity was a weapon that allowed leaders to make ruthless, effective decisions. The second benefit of betrayal is improved judgment. Before betrayal, your judgment was clouded by emotions, by loyalty, by hope, by attachment. After betrayal, your judgment becomes sharper. You start evaluating people differently. You read intentions more accurately. You trust slowly. You observe deeper. You wait longer. You judge based on patterns rather than promises. Betrayal gives you psychological lenses that make deception easier to detect. Machiavelli wrote that rulers who survived the longest were those who learned to judge character more by actions than by charm. The third benefit of betrayal is the removal of the wrong people. People who betray you were never meant to stay. If they stayed longer, they would have done greater damage. They would have drained you further. They would have sabotaged more opportunities. They would have destroyed more parts of you. Betrayal removes them early, brutally but early. Machiavelli believed that the universe gives you warnings before it gives you disasters. Betrayal is that warning. A warning that someone close to you was actually an enemy to your peace. The fourth benefit is recalibrated self-worth. Betrayal forces you to rebuild your self-worth from the ground up, from inner strength instead of outer validation, from boundaries instead of begging, from self-respect instead of self-sacrifice. You rise differently after betrayal. You walk differently. You speak differently. You choose differently. You become someone who no longer allows anyone to define your worth. Machiavelli believed that a leader's greatest weapon was a sense of self that could not be destroyed by others. The fifth benefit is emotional freedom. When betrayal breaks the bond between you and someone who hurt you, you are freed from emotional dependency. You no longer attach your happiness to people who do not deserve access to it. You no longer cling to toxic connections. You no longer stay in situations that drain you. You become emotionally self-sufficient. And emotional freedom is a form of power Machiavelli valued above almost anything. The sixth benefit is increased ambition. Pain becomes fuel. Betrayal ignites something inside you, a desire to rise, to rebuild, to prove to yourself, not to them, that you can turn this pain into strength. Betrayal wakes up the part of you that was sleeping. It pushes you to evolve faster, to grow harder, to focus deeper, to become the version of you that betrayal tried to destroy. Machiavelli believed that suffering often activates ambition more effectively than success. The seventh benefit is better boundaries with everyone. Not just the person who betrayed you. Betrayal recalibrates your standards. It teaches you what to look for, what to avoid, what to tolerate, what to never tolerate again. You become harder to manipulate, harder to deceive, harder to use. Betrayal makes you more discerning. This newfound discernment becomes a shield that protects you in every future relationship. Machiavelli believed that once a person learns the true cost of blind trust, they become sharper than anyone who has never been betrayed. The eighth benefit is emotional immunity. After betrayal, you build a type of inner strength that cannot be taught in peace. It can only be forged in pain. You learn to live without certain people. You learn to heal without apologies. You learn to grow without closure. You learn to rebuild yourself without support. This independence makes you emotionally bulletproof. Machiavelli believed that the most dangerous person is the one who has survived emotional destruction and rebuilt themselves quietly. The ninth benefit is life realignment. Betrayal often redirects your path. It pushes you into new environments. It pushes you away from toxic circles. It pushes you toward people who truly value you. It pushes you into growth, into purpose, into clarity, into your next chapter. Betrayal redirects you toward the life you were meant to live, not the one you were settling for. Machiavelli believed that pain has direction, and betrayal often points to higher destinations. The 10th benefit is power over your emotions. Before betrayal, your emotions controlled you. After betrayal, you learn to control your emotions. You learn emotional discipline, emotional regulation, emotional intelligence. You stop acting out of fear. You stop reacting out of insecurity. You stop seeking validation. You become someone whose emotions serve them instead of sabotage them. This level of emotional control is something Machiavelli believed separated strong minds from weak ones. And the final benefit of betrayal is this: you upgrade, you rise, you transform. You become someone with sharper instincts, stronger boundaries, higher standards, and deeper wisdom. Betrayal becomes the catalyst that activates your evolution. The person you become after betrayal is someone your past self desperately needed. Someone wiser, someone stronger, someone who finally understands their worth. And now that you understand how betrayal benefits you, you are ready for the final part. Because the last stage reveals what Machiavelli believed was the greatest truth of all. The revenge hidden inside betrayal. Not revenge against the betrayer, but revenge through your transformation. The revenge of becoming someone they can never hurt again. And now that you understand how betrayal benefits you, you are ready for the final truth Machiavelli believed about painful betrayal. The truth most people never see because they are too consumed by the hurt, too blinded by the shock, too lost in the emotional destruction to recognize what has truly happened. But here is the truth. The greatest revenge against betrayal is not anger, not confrontation, not punishment, not bitterness. The greatest revenge is becoming someone they can never hurt again, someone they can never reach again, someone they can never manipulate again, someone they can never betray again. Because betrayal does not just remove them from your life. Betrayal removes you from their reach. Betrayal disconnects you from the version of yourself they once had access to. Betrayal destroys the attachment they used against you. Betrayal breaks the emotional leverage they once held. Betrayal frees you from the illusions that kept you loyal to the wrong person. And once those illusions die, you rise into a version of yourself that no longer depends on the people who harmed you. That is the revenge. Machiavelli believed that the best retaliation against those who betray you is not to hurt them, but to outgrow them, to rise so far above them that they lose all power over you. Because betrayal does not reduce your worth. Betrayal reveals your worth. It shows you what you gave to someone who was not ready to receive it. It shows you what you invested in someone who could never match it. It shows you the level of loyalty, love, and effort you possessed, qualities they will not find again so easily. Betrayal makes them realize what they lost long after you have moved on, and that delayed realization is more painful than any direct revenge. Machiavelli knew that the betrayer always suffers a different kind of punishment. The punishment of memory, the punishment of regret, the punishment of self-awareness. Because once the fog of betrayal clears, they begin to see the truth. They begin to see your absence. They begin to feel the loss of your presence. They begin to understand the privilege they once had. They begin to recognize the stability you provided, the support you offered, the loyalty you embodied. And when they look at their life after betraying you, they will notice something dark and ironic. Their life did not improve. Their guilt did not vanish. Their selfish gain did not last. Their excitement did not endure. Their victory tasted temporary, because betrayal always comes back to the betrayer, not because the world punishes them, but because their own conscience eventually does. Machiavelli believed that the betrayer always becomes haunted by the very act they committed. Not immediately, not loudly, but silently, slowly, quietly. They begin to understand what you meant to them only when you stop being accessible, only when your silence replaces your support, only when your absence replaces your presence, only when your boundaries replace your forgiveness. But your concern is not their regret. Your concern is your evolution. Because the final stage after betrayal is the rebirth of your identity. You become more aware, you become more strategic, you become more selective, you become more powerful. You no longer hand your loyalty to those who haven't earned it. You no longer ignore red flags out of hope. You no longer stay where your spirit feels drained. You no longer invest in connections that pull you backward. You no longer allow people with temporary intentions to hold permanent positions in your life. Machiavelli believed that betrayal purifies your environment. It strips away the weak links. It removes the hidden threats. It clears the path forward. Betrayal forces you upward because there is nowhere else left to go. It forces you into your next chapter, your stronger chapter, your wiser chapter, your more powerful chapter. And this new version of you begins to live differently. You begin to observe more and react less. You begin to listen more and speak less. You begin to trust patterns instead of excuses. You begin to value yourself without external validation. You begin to move with calmness instead of desperation. You begin to accept endings without resistance. You begin to walk away without guilt. You begin to rise without explanation. And that rise is the final revenge. The rise is the moment every painful betrayal becomes worth it, because the person you become afterward is someone your old self would be proud of. Betrayal was not the end. It was the beginning of better standards, the beginning of better judgment, the beginning of better boundaries, the beginning of better relationships, the beginning of deeper strength, the beginning of true self-worth. Machiavelli believed that betrayal creates leaders because betrayal forces evolution that comfort never will. And now you stand at that powerful intersection, the point where the past cannot pull you back, the point where the betrayer can no longer reach you, the point where your new identity is stronger than the pain that created it. This is the dark lesson behind every betrayal. They did not break you, they revealed you. They did not defeat you, they transformed you. They did not remove your value, they reminded you of it, and from this moment on you rise differently. You love differently, you trust differently, you move differently, you live differently, because you finally understand Machiavelli's brutal truth. The ones who betray you shape you into someone they will never again have the power to touch.